Welcome to Career Journeys, a series of videos by the Consortium for Public Education. Here we explore the career experiences and pathways of professionals from a wide variety of careers to help you think about the skills you'll need and the paths you might take after high school.
Hi, I'm Debbie Pixton with the Consortium for Public Education. Today I'm interviewing Rachel Francine, CEO and co-founder of Musical Health Technologies. Thank you so much for joining us, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me.
Rachel, tell me about Musical Health Technologies and why did you decide to start this company?
I was sort of born into starting this particular company, and so the original idea for what we do was actually an idea my dad had in the 1960s. So he was in basic training in the Army, but he was also an opera student. And there's a guy whose job in the opera, and back then it was typically a guy, who would go to the opera rehearsals, see where the singers were weak in their lyrics, and then they would go to the shows, the performances, and actually prompt them to them right before they had to sing them. And so my dad was he was kind of what's now called a serial entrepreneur, but back then we called him a crazy inventor. And he would have all these different inventions, and he had this idea, this was before I was born, well, why can't I have this the opera prompter in the car with me, which sounds really simple now, but like it was like the cassette tape hadn't even been invented yet. And so one of the things that he did, that the idea stayed with him, and he had my brother and myself. My brother took my dad's musical talent and became a music therapist, and I went into technology and innovation. So one day my brother came back from school, and he said to us, that weird lyric prompting thing that Dad's always talking about, it's actually an evidence-based music therapy practice that can do everything from restoring speech after traumatic brain injury to getting people with dementia singing so that they can elevate their neurochemicals, their serotonin, their oxytocin, but also get this great full brain workout. And, that was way back when in the 80s still, late 80s, early 90s. And we kind of, my brother started a music therapy practice and worked in hospitals. And I went off and worked on the internet and learned how to build companies. And around the mid 90s, the first commercial internet companies started getting built. And I got to be a part of that, which was really exciting to see a whole new industry and a whole new way of life sort of be born. And so then I however got a little bit disappointed with technology. So I went back to school and I got a master's degree in something called future studies, which is the study of change, how things change, why they change, and most importantly to me, how to get them to change in the direction that you want. And you look at sort of probable, possible, and preferable futures, and it's really a long-term strategic planning exercise. And when I got out of school, it just sort of happened to be at the time when the app economy was starting to boom. My brother's music therapy practice, he just had lines around the block because there's only 7,000 music therapists in the country. And because we could now make my dad's weird idea into an app and we didn't have to build hardware, and because we saw that through my brother's practice, there was really a demand for therapeutic music, I was like, well, I can solve the access problem. I can solve the scaling problem here. We literally have the technology. And so we decided to start the company and off we went. Call it therapeutic music because music therapists, we got a lot of music therapists working for us. They go to 4 years of school. They have a lot of different tools that they can use. And we really have a lot of, my co-founders are music therapists. We have a lot of respect for the work that music therapists do. What we're trying to do is really like take some of the lower level burden off their shoulders, right? So they can focus on the hard cases and say, look, we can have other people help. You're the experts. We can have other people help in different ways distribute therapeutic music so that everybody has access to it.
So Rachel, this is an amazing blend of technology and health and music, in this case, and arts. What are some skills that really make your company work? What do you look for in people that you hire to work for you?
So we're a startup, right? And so that's a very particular environment. to be in and to thrive in. And when I did hire someone that wasn't working out great, I looked into this question. I was like, why is this not happening? Because she's obviously smart. She can do the job. What's the thing that's missing? And I think if you're thinking about startups, the key to some extent is grit, right? Because in a startup, by definition, you are creating something new, and or you should be. That, to me, that should be your goal, right? You're pushing the boundaries, you're creating something new, and that's always hard. And there's always going to be some, setbacks, and there's always going to be some tension, and that's going to, you're going to have to mix it up a little bit. And so it takes a little bit of grit, I think, to work in a startup environment. So I would advise, like, when you're writing, those cover letters and all of these kinds of things to people, when you're having these discussions, the more that you can find out about the organization and the more that you can express why that particular organization is an organization that you want to work for, and why, I think is great. That's what catches my eye.
Rachel, if I have students who are interested in this intersection of healthcare, the arts, and technology, what kinds of questions should they ask themselves to know if this might be a good area for a career for them?
The real question is, are you in it for you, or are you in it for the person that you're helping? Because, so for example, in technology, a lot of the times, like, it's sort of technology for technology's sake, right? You've got the coolest toys, so you want to make the coolest app and all of this kind of stuff. But when you're dealing with healthcare, you have to really be what's best for the person at the end, right, of this interaction. And I would say, what I've seen sometimes in art, artists who go into healthcare, some of them want to be artists, right? And that's great. And I've seen people have dual careers where they are artists and they're in, music therapy or whatever. But I think that when you are doing that, you need to know which role you're playing at which time, right? Because really being there, person-centered. I would say I'm not a music therapist, but I can sort of play one on TV. I know just enough to be dangerous in a conversation, but not enough to be dangerous in practice, because I don't have the patience for that face-to-face work. And so I think that that's really the thing to ask yourself, is like, which part of that, which part of the process are you going to be involved with?
So Rachel, you did a lot of studying around the future, around how things change, how do you get things to change in a way that you want them to. What kind of questions should students ask if they want to pursue something in that vein? How do they know if that's a good fit for them? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So the thing is people can become a futurist. You can go to school to do that. And in future studies, we really talk about the probable, possible, and preferable futures, just to give a little breakdown. The probable future is the future everybody assumes is going to happen. So in the 1950s, everybody assumed computers would be as big as a room. But all over the world, possible futures are being born. And some of these possible futures are, come from economic or political, or right now, of course, environmental, right, trends that are happening. Some of these are changes that we make ourselves, like social movements, right? So there's all of these changes that are going on. So instead of getting a computer that was as big as a room, we ended up getting a computer that we could stick in our pockets, right? And they're just everywhere now, computers. And a lot of futurists do that. They help people sort of navigate what these possible futures are. I like future studies for the preferable future. So the preferable future essentially is the future that you want to happen. And typically governments or organizations will do this by getting everybody together, if you're doing it right, both the people who are for something, against something, this and that. And you decide, what is it out of all of these scenarios that we've looked at that we actually want to have happen? And so, one of the things, and then it becomes a strategic planning exercise. So then you have to know how to strategically plan something and integrate it, right? Because it takes, and futurists tend to think of things at least on a 10-year time horizon, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that, but it's partially because, like, that's the amount of time it takes laws to get enacted often, right? The legislation, and it's the time to take to create social change. Although we're in a little bit of an accelerated timeline now with all the technology. And so what I would say is, like, become a futurist, great. What I will also say is I'm on the board of an organization called Teach the Future, and the goal of Teach the Future is how do we embed this idea into high school and middle school curriculums, because to me it's not about like being a futurist. It's never about I'm predicting this or I'm predicting that. A good futurist would never use the word predicting. Because you just never know. But it's about critical thinking and being able to know what you want and build towards it. And so that's what I would say. Like if the people are in this seminar and they want to become a futurist, great. But if what they're interested in is the future of health technology and the arts, it's like, come on board, because like it is a green space right now where there's just so much opportunity for invention. I say be a futurist. You can take like some classes all over the place. You can look at teachthefuture.com, but also just think about how you can embed preferable futures into how you think about whatever it is you want to do.
What's one piece of advice you would offer to students who are aspiring to work in your field or have a career like yours?
If you are creating algorithms for how somebody is going to be taken care of, right? You want to know how you would want to be taken care of, or you would want your grandmother taken care of. There's a wonderful economist named Hazel Henderson, and what she says is there's no such thing as artificial intelligence. There's only machine learning programmed by humans. And you can program in the empathy to everything you would do, I would say, and that would be my one piece of advice.
Rachel, this has been really wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and experiences with us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
For more information or to learn about other careers in the Career Journey series, visit our website and check back soon for our next installment. Thanks!